What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another morning motivation. If this is your first time joining me today, then I just want to welcome you to the channel, and I appreciate you clicking the link, or whether you searched online and you stumbled onto this place. I just welcome you, and I'm thankful that you're here. My name is Jhason Smith. I'm a pastor in the Nashville area, and if this is your first time, welcome. If this is not, and you're a repeat viewer, then welcome back. Glad that you're here. I'm excited for what we're going to be talking about today, but most importantly, I am thankful to be a part of your day, no matter where it's at. If you're watching this early in the morning or on your lunch break or late at night, I'm thankful to be a part of it, and I hope that what we talk about here today brings you motivation, brings you strength, gives you perspective, hopefully gives you some confidence to be able to tackle the things that you're going through right now in life, and to bring a perspective shift on any of the topics that we discuss in these morning motivation pep talks. My hope is that it's applicable, and that it really impacts you where you're at, or at least gets you thinking about maybe some things, even if it's something that maybe you're not dealing with currently, something you could stow away for the future. But today I want to talk in a little bit of a different angle than I have in the previous videos that I've posted. And today I really want to focus and talk to all of my leaders out there. And now I want to make a caveat statement here and say that just because you may not personally be a leader at a church or at your workplace, that I would challenge you to look at your life and really ask yourself and examine where you are leading in some capacity, because the truth is we are all leaders in some way, shape, or form. Maybe you're just not aware of it. Maybe you don't esteem yourself in that way, but if you have children, then you are a leader to that child or to those kids. If you are if you are a manager of sorts at your workplace, then you are in leadership. You don't just have to be fit the stereotypical molds of what a leader looks like in a titled position to be designated as a leader. We are all influencing people on a daily basis, and so that makes you a leader. And I challenge you to really change your perspective on that. If you just think of yourself as somebody who is maybe more of like a follower, then really just take stock of your own life and see the people who you are influencing. And you need to shift your perspective to view to view yourself as a leader, because we all influence someone. And that's a sobering thought, isn't it? Because sometimes we when we examine our life and we begin to really look at ourselves, maybe we don't feel confident enough to label ourselves a leader because we are still working certain things out in our own life, and we're like, dude, no one needs to be following me right now, or should ever follow me for that matter. And if I think that if you're at that spot in life, then definitely it's probably time for a wake-up call, because the sobering fact of reality is that you are a leader, and that's just point blank. I have been in church leadership for a little over 13 years now. And so what I'm going to be talking about today comes from a very personal place for me. I began serving in ministry at a very young age, at the church that I was brought up in, serving in different roles, whether it be on a worship team at a younger age, to being a youth pastor and being responsible for an aspect of the ministry. Leadership has been something that has been a part of my life for a very long time. And I know that I'm a young man, and I still have a lot more years in front of me to really sharpen this one aspect of my life. But the things that I'm going to be sharing from today for the leaders, which hopefully now you begin to see that's you. I hope that you won't tune out, and I hope you won't just click to the next video and be like, oh, well, this video is not for me. I challenge you, maybe stick through this and listen to what I have to say, and hopefully what we're talking about today will help you and bring some encouragement. And then lastly too, I'd just say for everybody who is confident that they are a leader, maybe you're not down and out. Maybe you're like, yeah, I serve in a role at a church. I'm a manager at my job. I don't know. I'm student council president. I don't know. Whatever capacity you're in, if you are in a leadership role on the sport, the team, the sports team that you're a part of, whatever it is, then I want to challenge you with some thoughts to really just tuck into your back pocket, hopefully add to your life, that will, in fact, make you the best leader that you possibly could be. And I guarantee you that. Seldomly are there things that can be guaranteed in life. I think the saying goes that death and taxes are in that category. But this is definitely one of them. And I want to speak, before I jump into the heart of everything, I really want to preface everything that we talk about here in the coming moments really by this statement. And it's something that I grew up hearing from my parents, and I'm sure that they heard it from their parents, and their parents heard it from their parents. And maybe it's a phrase that you have heard before, whether it be from a mentor or from, within your family or, wherever. And that's this phrase: if people know that you love them, then you can teach them anything. If people know that you love them, then you can teach them anything. Now, I love this phrase for a lot of reasons, but some of the core reasons why I love this really hit home for me, because my introduction into pastoring was kind of an unconventional route. I did not go to seminary. And I started serving at, there was a need at our church for an interim youth leader to really lead our youth ministry. And I stepped in at the ripe old age of 18 years old and really began leading our youth ministry with another member of our church. And we were really just like, we were both pretty young, and we knew that we had a passion for youth ministry. And so I kind of came into a leadership role at a young age with not a lot of credentials from a worldly standard. And that phrase really helped me in my early years of leadership, because when you first begin leading, you almost look to the things that you can anchor off to, whether it be that the world will give you or qualifications that you have that you can really get behind, that make you feel solid enough to insert your authority, I guess is probably the way to describe it. And, sometimes that can hurt a lot of people, and it definitely doesn't make you a genuine leader that people would want to follow or people would want to get behind. And so I knew that coming into my role, I was 18 years old, really beginning in the early steps of pastoring these teenagers that were at our church that were literally like I was only a few years older then. And it was a very unique role, a very unique position, a very unique situation. But all of it together, I knew that my saving grace was not going to be based upon, here are the reasons why I'm qualified to be here, but it was going to be built and established upon, I'm going to give the group of teenagers that I have all of my heart. And I'm going to show them that I love them and that I care about them. And if I can get them on that, if I can truly establish that as a heartbeat of my leadership, then I know that everything else will follow suit, and I'm not going to be worried about anything else. And so I really threw myself into that. Those were like in my early years of pastoring. Those were like the nuts and bolts of what I really hung on to, because I knew ultimately that that's what really won my heart with Jesus. I knew that he loved me. And I knew that I could see that through Scripture. I felt that through my encounters, my times of worship with him. And that is what really drew me into wanting to allow him to lead me in my life. What a great example to follow for anyone to look at as a role model for leadership. Go look at Jesus. Whether you're a believer or not, go study some of his teachings. I guarantee you that you can find things that will that are applicable to any type of leadership role. I mean, it's astounding. It's beautiful. But in this video, we probably have a more dominant Christian audience tuning into this channel, and that's fine. I welcome that. There's no problem with that. But we also may have a mixture of people who do not associate with Christianity. And I wanted to share a video that even though we will dominantly cover Christian-themed topics on this channel, I wanted to share something that could be applicable no matter what your background is. So for me, applying this phrase, if they know that you love them, then you can teach them anything. I think it speaks to the selfless side that a leader should really possess. And now again, I want to reiterate this because I just said this at the very beginning, but just before we get into the depths of everything, you are a leader whether you realize it or not. Okay, and you really need to let that sink in. You're a leader whether you realize it or not, and you are a leader because everybody influences someone. So that makes you a leader. It doesn't matter if you have a title. It doesn't matter if you're at an establishment of some sort that has a job position or whatever. None of that matters. You're a leader in some aspect of your life. It's just the reality of it. You are a leader in some aspect of your life. And so everything that we're talking about here in regards to how do we lead effectively, how do we lead really from a place that creates that change, that allows the people that we might be responsible for to really grow to the level that they need to grow to. How do we do that? And we're going to do that from a standpoint, from a baseline level of selflessness. There has to be. You go back and you look at every leader that made some type of difference in human history or whatever. There was a level of selflessness intermingled with their leadership style. Now, there definitely is different characteristics of leadership. I think of several human history people that were a part of these massive moments in human history that maintained a certain level of strength or stamina or ability to speak, yada yada yada. There's gonna be categories and subsections within each person, like their individual personalities that flourish in different ways. But there needs to be the driving force behind all of those auxiliary things, a selflessness to want to see the people around you grow or be protected or reach the goal that they are shooting for, and you want to help that. That has to be a baseline. You need to put yourself under the people that you're leading. This is the phrase that I really heard, because if we're going to be a good leader, then we need to maintain the baseline foundation of just a selflessness that is intermingled in every choice that we make as a leader. Okay, and before I say this phrase that I heard that really inspired this entire video, I want to make sure too that we understand that in being a leader, it is essential that we do not move in arrogance. It's essential. Pridefulness, arrogance, these are the types. I think back to the jobs that you've had and the managers that you've had, or the shift leaders that you've had, whatever occupation you've had where you had somebody who governed over you in some type of authoritative role. Think about the people that you had that you really just did not enjoy working for. And I guarantee you're going to point to some sort of level of arrogance or just disassociation that leader had in your life that you just kind of, you get to where you're like, oh, they don't get it. They have no clue what's going on, or they're power hungry or whatever, And I think we all face that. We're frustrated by that because we understand on a baseline level, on a human level, that's not what a good leader does. A good leader is somebody who truly exemplifies a level of humility and selflessness. Truly. You can be strong and still be humble. You can be valiant and fearless and charismatic without and still maintain a level of selflessness. I think that there's a misconception with being like, oh, if you're going to be a selfless leader, you're going to be a humble leader, that automatically that means that people are just going to walk all over you, and that's just wrong. That's not the case. You can be a pleasant human, and you can be humble, you can be selfless, and still possess strength. I think that is 1,000% doable. And it's something that you should, because part of being a leader is putting yourself underneath if you're going to put yourself underneath the people that you're leading, then you do have to maintain a level of strength to be able to really lift people up sometimes. I mean, life is hard. And especially too, wherever you are leading, if you're leading at a church, you're a worship pastor, you're an associate pastor, you're a senior pastor, you're a children's pastor, wherever you're leading, at a job, in a school, at a church, wherever, you want to make the biggest impact because you're convicted about the place that you're working or that you're investing your time in, and you want to see your impact and your investment of time towards that impact be maximized. Hopefully you're not just leading because hopefully there's a reason behind why you are in the position that you're in. It might get a little bit different when it's in a job scenario, because sometimes you're elevated to a title and you're like, I'm just here for a paycheck or whatever. But you could probably make that job a little bit more enjoyable if you did apply some of these things. So having selflessness, walking in humility, is such a relatable characteristic to any leader. And I would challenge you to really examine your life and ask yourself, am I demonstrating? That's the big thing. Am I demonstrating? Don't just say, oh, am I walking like in this? Because like maybe sometimes we can be delusion about that in ourselves. Like truly ask yourself, and maybe ask someone else, get input. Do I exemplify and do I demonstrate a level of humility in my leadership? Because if you don't, then people will feel like you are unreachable. And if you are perceived as being unreachable, no one's going to follow your lead. They're just not going to. The best leaders that I have ever had in my life were the people who I felt like were down in the dirt with me. Do you feel that way? The people who I really admire the most were the people who I saw walk the walk and then talk the talk, versus only talking the talk and not walking the walk. A true leader, I think, really identifies this balance, that it's better to walk the walk than to talk the talk. And that phrase that I started off this video with, saying, if the people that you're leading, if they know that you love them, then you can teach them anything. One thing that's associated with being a leader is that we feel like we are just automatically anointed with this ability where people just have to listen to you. And that might be the case for your job. Certainly there's a level of aspect of that. I think that you have to, depending on the situation, you do have to, grant that person, that respect. But if true life change is going to happen, and I see this a lot in our church setting, in the years I've been pastoring, the true life change happens when the individual or the group of people that I'm leading, they know that the words that I'm saying are backed up by my actions first. Because then if I've proven to them with my heart, with my actions first, and then I say the thing that's hard, it hits way deeper, because they know my character, and they know that I'm not just using them as a punching bag, or I'm just I'm just like exercising my authority over them just because I'm their leader, I'm their pastor or whatever. That doesn't change people. That puts people in bondage. And we wonder why there's so much legalism in the church or religiosity in the church. And it's because there is an aspect of the leadership that is running rampant in our church where people aren't, where the leaders aren't, and the people too, aren't calling into question some of, or aren't being held to a standard of humility, accountability, selflessness. They look at their job, just right now specifically focusing on the church. They look at their job as well, because I'm in this titled position, then you have to respect me. You have to show me some authority, show me some respect in my authority or whatever. And I just think that just causes a lot of hurt. And there's a lot more that we could say about that, but for the sake of time, I don't want to get too far down that road, kind of going on a tangent a little bit. So we want to be selfless, though. We want to walk in humility. It is a vital part of your leadership. Be reachable. If you are someone, even and especially if you are a young leader, oftentimes you feel like everything is stacked against you. Even if you do have an education, if you do have a degree, that's great. But sometimes you hide behind that degree. Sometimes you hide behind that education, those qualifications, and then you use them as like a ladder to really climb up on top of the crowd and look down and preach down to or lead down on the people that you are responsible for. And that doesn't come across the right way. I would just say, as a good rule of thumb, lead with humility first, no matter how qualified you are. Act like you're not the smartest person in the room. Act like you care about every single person that you are responsible for. And I'm not saying act as in like that it's fake. I'm saying like demonstrate it. Like do the action of proving to the people that you're responsible for that they matter. And I promise you, everything else that you desire in your leadership role will follow suit. But you've got to get that first step done first. And that's got to be your most prominent step. Now on to the phrase. This is what I heard that inspired this entire video. Okay. The phrase goes like this. And I think I was in the shower and I heard this. The best ideas come in the shower, right? But I was, this is the phrase that I heard. If you are too big for a job that's beneath you, then you are too small for a job that's above you. I'll say it again. If you are too big for a job that's beneath you, then you are too small for a job that's above you. Kind of stings a little bit, but that kind of summarizes what I'm talking about here. Sometimes as leaders, we think, well, I'm the leader, so I shouldn't have to do that thing. And I really want to put that on its head and just be like, you know what? Because you are the leader, look to be the example in the smallest thing that you are responsible for, in the most non-glamorous thing that you can take on. Be like, champion that. Be like, master those details. Not just to put out an example, like if you're a pastor of a church, then my goodness, don't be too big to consider yourself, to consider going down and cleaning the toilets. Like, I think it's good for the human ego. I genuinely do, because sometimes we get so twisted and corrupted and bent out of shape and power hungry. It's just the flesh. It's just the flesh's desire. We think that we're bigger than we really are. And I think that it's important for any high level leader. I understand that there are different responsibilities that, you got to make the whole mechanism turn or whatever. Like, I get all of that. Don't take your focus off certain things that's going to do it to the detriment of the entire team or organization or whatever. I get all that. But I think that it is to your benefit to have something that you do as a leader, no matter how big of a leader you are, that is purposefully something that is well beneath your normal scope of responsibilities, that keeps you in check. I'm a firm believer in that. Because as a believer, as a Christian, as a pastor, I look a lot to the teachings that Jesus brought and his example. And actually, I've got some Bible verses here I want to share too, that really speak to this. And one of them is Matthew 23, verses 11 through 12. And Jesus says, "But the greatest among you shall be your servant. Whoever exalts himself shall be humbled, and whoever humbles himself shall be exalted." It's a great passage. I love that verse. It's that kind of encapsulates everything that we're saying. The greatest among you shall be your servant. And again, just saying that phrase one more time, if you are too big for a job that's beneath you, then you are too small for a job that's above you. And I think another way you could say that would be, if you really want to see if you really want to grow as a leader, if you want to get to another place in your leadership, then the way to get there is to not just like power, like step on as many people as you can to get to the top. You gotta, in order to really truly get to that place in God's eyes and to really be brought up to those places, those higher callings on your life, the things that you were created to do. Again, speaking just from a pastor and a believer, God blesses the humble, but he is opposed to the proud, is what Scripture says. And he gives grace to the humble in that passage. It says he's opposed to the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. This is beautifully put. And if I am a leader and I have something that I'm responsible for, that I go, oh well, that's just beneath me. I don't know. Reaching out personally, writing letters to my congregants is beneath me, because I've got better things to do. I need to prep for next week's sermon. Or this is old fashioned, but man, I love this. I love that in some of these more traditional style churches, especially back in the day too, the pastor would go to the door and shake everyone's hand on their way out. Like that to me, I love old little things like that. The little traditions that just really intentionally humble you, intentionally put you in a place of like reminding yourself that you're not as big as you might think you are. I think that it's good for the human heart, with how our tendencies are to want to be more arrogant or think more highly of ourselves than we ought to think. It's a good mechanism to keep in check. Now, I will say that another aspect of this is, when we think about being a leader and when we think about serving the people, we want to definitely do it in a way that is. We want to definitely do it in a way that's not coming across as like disingenuous. I want that to be I want you to desire that from a genuine place in your heart. Don't just go, oh, I want to be the best leader possible, and so I am going to intentionally go and clean toilets. Like, okay, maybe go clean some toilets, but put your heart and your mindset into the reason why it is not too big for you to put that put those gloves on and start cleaning away. It's because God is opposed to the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. If you are too big to do something that you think is beneath you, then you are really, in actuality, too small for those greater things in life that you really are like really aiming for and really shooting for. Flip it on its head. Don't be too big to associate with the lowly, as it says, as Paul tells us to do in Romans. Don't be so arrogant that you think that you're just too big for your britches, like to get to that point where you just don't see it. You don't see how big-headed you are. Lead with a compassionate heart and with that attitude that says, no job is beyond me. Picking up trash after service is not beyond me. Taking this phone call right now is not beyond me. Find those things that you might qualify as beneath you and really see them as an opportunity to really prove and establish your leadership, because everybody will see it. Everyone notices those types of details. And even if they don't notice it, for whatever reason, if they don't see it, if they don't see that example played out in your life, God sees it. and he's going to bless it. It's just how it works. He will bless it. But the best part about it is when you do those things and really keep yourself in check in that way and walk in that like humble mindset, then you'll do the big things as though they're small. And then you'll also look at the small things as though they're big, which is incredible. And that's really my heart cry. I truly, in my life, in every aspect of what I do as a pastor, as a leader, as a dad, as a husband, I want to look at the things that I'm responsible for and doing, and I want to do the small things as though they're big, so that I can then do the big things as though they're small. Then I don't slip into a level of idolatry and really make either my career my God or whatever, but I'm able to keep God in the center of my heart and really keep me grounded. Another passage of scripture that I want to pull from is Luke 14:11, and it says this: "For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted." I want to read that again. It's huge. It's exactly what we're talking about here. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. If you're too big for a job that's beneath you, then you are too small for a job that's above you. That's what it comes down to. I mean, genuinely, I love how Jesus says this here. The last passage I want to read to you here this morning is found in Matthew 20, verses 26 through 28. And Jesus says it this way. He says, "It is not this way among you, but whoever wishes to become great among you shall be your servant. And whoever wishes to be the first among you shall be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many." I love that, because, and speaking to my fellow Christians here on the channel, our whole namesake comes from Christ, to follow him. And so what did he do? Well, he came to serve, not to be served. And yet I see a lot of times in churches, I see people who get so caught up in their title and their role that they expect a certain level of respect and almost demand to be served. And it's gross. I mean, just flat out, it's just sickening. I think we get to that place because we forget that truly the best leaders are the ones that are really down in the dirt with the people. To be a leader is not the pinnacle of the food chain. To be the leader, I mean, to put it bluntly, to be the leader, you're at the bottom of the food chain. Pick up your team and put them above yourself. Pick up the people that you're responsible for and put them on your shoulders and say, it is to our benefit that I get you as high as you can go, that I push you as far as you can go, that I help you stretch as far as you can reach, not for my glory, not for my praise, but so that you can reach your fullest potential, whether that be at work or at school or in the Lord. You know, as a pastor, really trying to build people up to see who they are in Christ. That's huge. And that floods into every aspect of who you are as a leader. So that's all I've got really for today, and kind of an unconventional video, but I hope that inspires you. I hope that encourages you. If you are in a place of leadership, then please take this challenge. Lead from a place of humility and understand that not only is God opposed to the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. That means that if you're leading right now and you feel like you're running on empty, you don't have the strength to keep going or whatever, look at your life and how you're leading. Are you leading from a place of arrogance because you just expect people to follow suit? Or are you leading from a place of humility? Because if you are leading from that humble place, there is a grace for you in that role. And it's a grace that will keep you being able to move forward. When we begin to move in our own strength, when we begin to exercise maybe even the fruits of the Spirit, the qualities that make us a good leader in our own strengths and our own abilities, then that's when it becomes an issue, because it's only a finite amount of energy that we can exert in those moments. And if someone hits us at the right moment, or if it's been a long day or whatever, nobody's perfect. But definitely, when we are exercising what we're talking about here, walking in selflessness, walking in humility, then it is to our safeguard. It really is. And especially in the church, if I have any pastors here watching, if I have any young leaders in the church who are watching right now, then my advice to you is apply this wholeheartedly into every aspect of your leadership. And the people who are also leading alongside of you, get them to adopt this as a principle and a mainstay in their leadership. No job is beneath you, no matter what it is. I remember when I was youth pastor, I was a youth pastor for 10 years. And, part of, you do these sermons and you try to find out ways to like really connect with the students and teach them in a way that makes it memorable or whatever. And what's crazy is that I know that I have some of our old students still in my life and still at our church. And like, I could probably go to them and say, hey, tell me one sermon that I preached. And they could probably give me one. They could probably give me two from back then. But like, out of the hundreds that I preached, we're talking about a handful. And that could be kind of a hurt to your pride. It's a good hurt to your pride. But it just shows you what the importance of being a leader is really all about. It's not tied up, if you're a pastor, it's not tied up in your sermons. It's really tied up in how you love the people, how available you are for the people. And so I would get done with a sermon, I'd be pouring my heart out, and then there would be many Friday nights. Our youth group used to meet on Friday nights. There would be many Friday nights where I would be, I would be the car ride back home for like several students. I would be we'd do a carpool and I would drop people back off. And so it was like, in a way, kind of serving as like the bus ministry, and maybe I'd buy them a drink, at a coffee shop, when we would go and hang out afterwards, and they never saw really any of that, especially too, they're like young teenagers, like you don't really understand some of those concepts. You don't know to look for those concepts, but I knew what was going on. And I knew that ultimately the most important aspect of me being a pastor in their life at that point was not about the sermon that they just got on hearing. It was about how available am I going to prove to them that I am here for them. And I had several moments, years of doing that. I had several moments in my life, in that span of time, where I would get a call, from one of my students in the middle of the night, weeping on the other side of the phone. They needed something, and they knew they could call me. They knew that they could call me not because I preached a good sermon, but because I had demonstrated to them that nothing was beneath me, that their need was not beneath me, that their hurt was not beneath me, that their struggle was not beneath me, but that it was there for me to help in whatever way that I could. And nobody's perfect. You're not going to get everything right. But if you will apply this to your leadership, then not only will you see benefits added to your life, and really it shapes your character in a great way, but most importantly, God will honor you in that, and he will bless you, and he will bring you to those places that are above you currently, that you're dreaming to get to, but you have got to walk in humility first. So in true Jhason Smith fashion, I don't know what time it is, and it's probably like a 30-minute video. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll trim it down a little bit, but I appreciate you hanging in there and sticking it in there with me, just listening to me chat and talk your ear off for a little bit. I appreciate you. But wherever you are at, whatever you are in the middle of, keep going. Don't give up. Don't stop. These morning motivations are for you, and hopefully they bring you some sort of hope and life in the midst of the run, in the midst of the journey, so that you don't give up, so that you don't stop. And so hopefully we can create a level of community here so that you don't feel alone. So I appreciate you. Thank you for sticking around. Keep going. Don't give up. And we will see you on the next one.